I want to talk about what is an even more just awesome thrill for me is the USFL draft was just held. You had a big role in that. You helped put together this draft pool. Can you give us just a little insight into what it was like for you to just try to build, quite literally, a league that folks could draft 8 teams from that are going to have 38 active players and 7 players on the practice squad as they play 10 weeks of football all the way through to the July 4th weekend?
Yeah, that was a big challenge. You know, that first draft was going to be 280 guys drafted. And obviously the most important thing for us is going to be the product on the field that the fans get to watch. So there was a lot of pressure on us to make sure we were getting the right people. The pandemic over the last 2 years has really kind of muddied the waters a little bit. So there's been a lot of guys that have gotten lost during this transition with extra time at college, bypassing drafts, skipping seasons. So there's some information and data that was, you know, a little bit challenging for us to kind of track down and really kind of connect. We use the networks of all the people that are a part of the USFL family. You know, we're blessed to have 8 really, really good scouts with us that then became team directors, NFL experience, college experience, know the college game, know the NFL game. They shared information. They worked together as a team. And that's been, for me, the most gratifying thing so far during this journey is to watch everybody work in unison as one team. So we hadn't gotten to the part yet where we were competing against each other as franchises. We saw a little bit of that once the draft started last week. But up until that point, you know, the guys were great at sharing information and making sure that we were able to get the best players available at every position into that draft pool in a short amount of time.
I was really ecstatic to see the quality of quarterbacks, in particular, the guys that people know about, right? Shea Patterson coming out of Michigan, Jordan Ta'amu coming out of Ole Miss, but also guys that I don't think a lot of folks are familiar with, quarterbacks like Bryan Scott, for instance. Ben Holmes is another one. How did you go about evaluating quarterbacks and selecting those guys that would be among those 8 that were chosen in the first round?
It was really just, you know, what you're doing with every other position. You know, who are the best guys there? You know, who are some of the contacts that you have? I think the coaches were really helpful at that point, knowing the offensive system that they were going to put in place and what quarterbacks would fit those systems the best. And I think you saw that with Bryan Scott. I think you see that with Ben Holmes. You know, when we talked to Mike Riley, you know, Ben Holmes was high on his list from the very, very beginning. You know, over 5,000 yards at Tarleton State. When you talk to Bart Andrus, you know, Bryan Scott was very, very high on his list. When you talk to Bryan Scott, you know, what I like about him is he's got a little bit of that chip on his shoulder, but it's a good chip. You know, sometimes people wear that and it has a negative component to it. Bryan he wears his chip with a very, very positive component to that. So, you know, I've always been a guy that was wired to prove people wrong. And several years ago, I had a guy that just absolutely shifted my whole thought process in that situation as to proving people who believed in you right, as opposed to proving people who doubted you wrong. And it's a real powerful shift. And Bryan Scott has that. You know, he kind of comes from that background of proving those who believed in him right, as opposed to, you know, proving those who doubted him wrong. I'm excited to see both of those guys. And you mentioned the other guy, Shea Patterson. It was really kind of one of those things that sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. You know, I think that Jeff Fisher and Steve Kaiser had a guy picked out that they wanted to have in Michigan that was going to be one of their top people, and things just didn't work out there in that situation. And Shea Patterson was exiting the CFL right at that exact same time. For us to be able to start our first draft in the USFL with Shea Patterson from the University of Michigan going to the Michigan Panthers was just one of those things that you couldn't script any better. And it got our evening off to a great start that night when we introduced the quarterbacks.
I'm getting ready to tell folks a list of the 10 exciting players for me. And the Panthers have 2 of them, right? One of them is Shea Patterson. And then right there at the very end of the first day of the draft, Paxton Lynch sneaks in there
right.
to the Michigan Panthers. And I said, wait a second, the same one? And they said, yeah, the same one. Another guy that was exiting the CFL, not unlike Shea Patterson. How did that come together, and how did it come together so quickly?
A lot of great work by the people within our team. You know, we do have some ties back into the CFL, so we have a lot of guys that are monitoring what's happening there. That was really our competition for the players. If we were a little bit slow in making decisions or getting, you know, people to buy into what our vision was, there was a chance that they could leave for the CFL, and that was something that was going back and forth a little bit through that whole process. We lost some players to the CFL. The CFL lost some players to the USFL. I think it was a pretty fair balance at the time. But as you pointed out, for us to be able to get two high-profile quarterbacks like that, and then to have Michigan book in the draft with Shea Patterson starting the night and Paxton Lynch ending the night. Again, I mean, can you script that any better? So, it's something that I'm sure that we'll continue to butt heads with a little bit as we move forward. We're both competing for players. It's our message to them is, if you come to the USFL and play, you're going to play 10 regular season games, hopefully get into the playoffs and then go to the championship game. That'll be July 2nd. That gives you plenty of time to rest, recover, and then elevate your status as an NFL player and get into a camp. If you go to the CFL, you forfeit that whole cycle again. You're not getting into the NFL until at some point in 2023. So we think we have a lot more to offer than the CFL does in the hopes of getting back and chasing that NFL dream.
It is an important distinction, right? One in which the USFL season wraps up that 4th of July weekend, right as training camp is getting ready to start in the NFL, and the CFL season wraps up in October. So I'm glad that is played into strategy, and it's really interesting to me to hear that coming from you. But also, I got to hit on this. You seem to have a real passion for spring football, right? Having been a part of, I believe that this is your third league, or is it your fourth league as
my third
administrator? Your third league league as an administrator in spring football leagues. Why do you like this side, literally, of football?
Well, I think it all starts from what every ex-NFL player wants to find out is everything that I've experienced during my career as a football player, going all the way back to high school. You're taking little bits and pieces from all those people who influenced you, or who taught you lessons, on your journey through the game of football, college level, professional level. You hear all the coaches' sayings, you watch film as you get ready for your opponents, you start to see things a little bit differently, as a player, as you grow and mature. For me, it was, if I got a front office opportunity, would all those things that I've learned and experienced through the years help me assemble a championship roster? I've been blessed to have been on a championship team at the high school level, an undefeated team at the college level, and 3 Super Bowl championship teams in the NFL. I know what it looks like as a group. I know how to get it to that point, but can I find the individual elements to bring together as a team? And how do I balance the talent and the culture that I want to provide and create, in that setting? So that was the intrigue to kind of come into it at first, but it really shifts immediately once you get around these guys that play in the spring league. And I've already heard it from our head coaches, how passionate they are about the game, why they're there, what they're still doing. Are they still chasing that dream of the NFL? Are they just doing it because of the love of the game? And this is really my only opportunity at this stage of my career to be able to continue to play football. Those are some of the great things that happen. And we've already had some of our coaches just after the draft with conversations that they've had with their players really kind of hit them in a different way, something that they've missed, over the years as coaches. And I said, wait till the season ends and you watch some of these guys go on and have that opportunity. Their time with you gave them the opportunity to continue to pursue that NFL dream. And we've had that happen with multiple players, whether it was the Alliance of American Football or the XFL. In both of those 2 spring leagues, we've sent players back into the NFL, guys that were stuck in that practice squad mentality. We've gotten them back onto the active roster. So that's one of the things that has really brought me a lot of joy and sense of accomplishment, is really kind of having the opportunity to send a young man's life on a completely different trajectory than what he had before we met.
It was one of the privileges of the job that I do is telling stories and getting to see how those stories unfold. And I was floored just with the gratitude that many of the players had for being in this position.
Exactly.
Especially not knowing a whole bunch about what they were going to do once they got to Protective Stadium on Tuesday, and then to see how it all unfolded for them, and genuinely surprised and genuinely happy, and getting to talk with them about what they were doing before. Like, for instance, Jordan Ta'amu, right? He's flying back from Hawaii to be here for the draft, but just before then, he had been working as a personal trainer in Nashville, and he's excited to be able to play professional football once again. Thanks for watching this video, and remember, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any other videos on the #1 Ranked Show YouTube channel.